Rams house. Welcome into a brand new episode, my friends. Today, we are talking the biggest winners and losers from Rams OTAs. On today's episode, presented by Prize Picks, as always, we're going to be discussing some guys on this Rams team who clearly came out ahead in OTAs, who had very great OTA sessions, who impressed the coaches, impressed the media guys on hand, and we heard a lot of positive things about them. And then we're going to talk about a couple guys, and I use the term losers here. It's pretty soft usage of loser at this point in the offseason, so we're 100% on the same page. But some guys who maybe didn't have as good of an OTA period with this Rams team as we were hoping to see. But before we get to all that, I want to see if you guys know ball. I want to see in the comments below how much the Ramily knows ball. Who is the Rams' all-time leading rusher? I want you to let me know in the comments who leads the Rams all-time in regular season rushing yards. Answer below. I'm gonna have the answer for you at the end of today's show, but if you know now, if you're a real ball knower, drop it in the comments below. There's a lot of great Rams running backs in this team's history, and the one who is at the top may not be who you'd expect. But let's jump in to our winners and losers while you guys are racking your brains for the answer to that one. Number one, the whole team. The whole team is a winner to some degree here, guys, because they get a little bit of extra rest. If you missed this yesterday, we filmed a short on it. We're always on top of Rams news. The quickest way to Rams news, I will tell you, my friends, is to make sure you have your notifications on so you don't just see our VOD videos that we do, the longer ones, but you also see the shorts that we put out as well. And we put one out on this news that we got. Thank you to Sarah Barshoff, our ESPN beat reporter, for being the first one on this. Sean McVay told Rams players today that he is canceling minicamp and that next Monday will be the last day of the team's offseason program. So that's big for this Rams team. The June 15th and 16th dates next week that they were expected to be back for veteran minicamp, those are called off. And this is not a unique thing to this Rams team at this point. We've seen several teams around the league make the decision recently, either because they've had great attendance at early portions of minicamp, because they've been really impressed with what they've seen from the early portions of minicamp, or in the case of the Arizona Cardinals, because they are Hall of Fame game players this season. They're canceling that later portion of minicamp. So the Rams joining that trend. From their perspective, I think it's in advance of what will be a very hectic early season travel run. Obviously, you have the trip out to Australia, but you've also got a road game in Philadelphia over that stretch. You've got to play the New York Giants at home over that stretch. You're on prime time 4 times in the first 5 weeks of the season. It is going to be very important that this Rams team is well rested for its first couple of games, because between the travel and the opponents that you face, it is a tough opening stretch. Number 2. So I think everyone's a winner from a rest perspective. I think everyone's a winner getting extra rest. But now we're talking about 2 guys who did a little bit more to impress. And this one, especially if you are a long-term viewer of the Rams Report and you know how I feel about Stetson Bennett, this one might surprise you. But Stetson Bennett has been reportedly a big winner in the early portions of Rams OTAs. We've heard about this from a number of different people at this point, and it's just getting to the point where I can't ignore it anymore. We've got to talk about what we're hearing around Stetson Bennett, the potential backup quarterback for this team in 2026. We've got a backup QB battle brewing on this team, and it might be more intense than anybody expected. So up next, we're getting into that, plus some losers from OTAs on today's show. But before we do, I got to give a shout out to the sponsor of today's show, guys, and it's the good people over at Prize Picks. Guys, if you are a regular viewer of the Rams Report, you know that I love playing with Prize Picks. It just adds so much more excitement to watching sports, and if you've never tried them out, there's just no easier place to cash in on sports action that you're already watching, whether it's the NBA Finals or the World Cup, and You could cash in on all of that with Prize Picks. And guys, it is so easy to play. If you've never played daily fantasy with Prize Picks, all you have to do is pick from 2 to 6 players. You're selecting more or less on their stat projections, whether you're picking for points, assists, rebounds, goals, pass attempts, if you're going for some of that World Cup action, or if you're going with the football action, the professional football action like I did right here, you can go with more sacks. You could go with more on receiving yards for Puka Nacua, and you could go with less on rushing yards for Christian McCaffrey. You guys could tail me or fade me on this lineup with just one click by following my username on PrizePicks. I'm Jackson Durham with no spaces. And you guys can see all of my latest lineups, and you can drop a follow, and you can tailor fade them with one click. And if you're brand new to PrizePicks, make sure you use our promo code. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code HMA when you play your first $5 lineup to receive $50 in lineups. That's code HMA when you play your first $5 lineup to get an extra $50 in lineups with PrizePicks. The clickable link to download the app is in the comments and the description below. As always, thank you to PrizePicks for sponsoring today's video. Let's talk about what Sean McVay had to say about Stetson Bennett. He said, I've seen tremendous growth. I think he's done a really nice job. He's earning the confidence of his teammates in terms of commanding the huddle. Then he's done a lot of good stuff in terms of reading with his feet. I think he's had a really good last couple of weeks, and I've been proud of him. That says a lot about Stetson. And we'll get to it in a minute, but this is not the first time we've heard really positive things about Stetson coming out of OTAs. But in a year like this, where Ty Simpson and Stetson Bennett are clearly in competition for that QB2 role, Sean McVay made it very apparent recently that they're not looking to go get a veteran. We have heard similar things in years past to this around Stetson Bennett and his development. So I'm not ready to say this is Stetson Bennett winning the QB2 job. It's too early to say that. It is, 100% at this point. But this is good news for Stetson Bennett. He's not out of this competition. He is staking his claim here, saying, hey, I'm the incumbent to this backup job. You've got to beat me. I'm not just going to roll over and give the job over to the first-round pick just because that's what the team clearly has planned long-term is Ty Simpson's the guy. That's their timeline. I've got mine as Stetson Bennett. He's got a fight here, and clearly he is. So he absolutely stands out as a winner at this point. He may delay Ty Simpson's timeline to becoming a backup, not even just because Ty Simpson's not playing well, because we've heard really good things about Ty as well coming out of camp, but because Stetson is just proving himself to have adapted more in this scheme, to have learned more. He's been here longer, and being the guy that the Rams ultimately trust to be QB2 seems very much within his reach. Lastly, amongst our winners, this is another bucket group here. Backup wide receivers. They are absolute winners from OTAs. I think you could have a lot of other defensive positions in this group as well from the Myles Garrett acquisition for sure. But one acquisition that the Rams did not make was an acquisition at receiver 3. It's not out of the realm of possibility that they might still go out and do it. Stephon Diggs got a positive ruling in his case today, actually after we scripted this whole video together. So maybe he factors into this conversation further down the line. But as of right now, this Rams team has not made any sort of external effort outside of drafting CJ Daniels to add to its receiver room, showing faith and trust in these 5 guys to figure it out. This is the room that I think, these are the 5 guys that I think the Rams view as options to step up to be receiver 3. And realistically, they want it to be him. They want it to be Terrance Ferguson. And no, he's not a receiver, but they want him to be the 3rd option in this offense as the year develops. You invested a lot into him last season in the draft. If he can step up and fill that role, if he could step up, it's going to make cap decisions a little bit easier next season with Colby Parkinson. We know how much this team is going to need easy decisions amongst a ocean of difficult ones over the next couple of months as far as who to stay and who to go goes. But I think this team is happy right now with the options that they have. I think this team is, as of right now, satisfied with the room as it's constructed, and they believe in who can step up here. Is Diggs going to play into this? Potentially if they lose that confidence. But as of right now, their actions, or really rather lack of actions, tell me they believe in the room as it is currently constructed. They believe it is a good enough room to support the reigning MVP and for him to have another season just like he did last year. So let's turn the page from the winners here. Let's talk about some guys who are maybe losers. And this one is a questionable one here for me because we got a weird quote from Sean McVay. I'm going to say it's an interesting quote, a quote that I was not expecting to necessarily see, and I think a quote that can be interpreted in a couple of different ways depending on kind of how you read it. So I'm going to share this with you guys here. Up to this point, I feel really good about the NFL guys. This was him when he was asked on impressions and takeaways of young players on this Rams team throughout OTAs. He said, up to this point, I feel really good about the NFL guys, whether it's through free agency or trades that we've added. Our rookies are getting very familiar. There's a lot being thrown at them in a short amount of time. They're way behind the curve. They're way behind in terms of just the overall teaching progression. But they're learning. I've seen steady improvement, but this isn't real football until we put the pads on. So again, I think there's two ways that you could look at this quote. One is to go, oh no, the rookies are behind. Oh no, the rookies are not where McVay expects them to be. He literally just told us they're way behind. They're behind the learning curve, he said. But then he adds in, but they're learning, and it isn't real football until we get the pads on. The other way to interpret this is to say that McVay was comparing where the rookies are to where the NFL guys are, and that it's not something to be concerned about. At the end of the day, don't know if that's the right way to view things. I think at times we've seen Sean McVay value a rookie's ability to slowly develop in a system and understand his playbook. We kind of saw that last season with Terrance Ferguson. Obviously, Puka Nacua is the outlier of coming into McVay's scheme, injuries kind of forcing the hand there of, we need you to step up. And as a rookie fifth-round pick, he ends up breaking NFL records. Of course, you do have that outlier example of a rookie immediately stepping up in McVay's scheme. But I think when given the opportunity to allow it to happen, the Rams and Sean McVay like to slow play development. They like to give guys time to learn and to come along in that process. And we've heard a lot of good things about the way Ty Simpson is embracing this learning environment, but he's also only a 15-game starter. This guy's only played 15 games at the college level at Alabama. He only made 15 starts. I don't think it's outside of the realm of possibility that they're looking at what they're seeing in OTAs and they're saying, we love the mindset, we love the way he's attacking things, and we're not necessarily worried here, but he's not exactly at the point where he's ready to win this QB2 job unless we see major improvement down the road. Something we're going to continue to monitor. Again, I'm not telling you that's the case, but that is a way you could interpret that quote from McVay as far as where the rookies are. When he says things like they're behind the curve, they've been a little bit slower to develop, it does kind of make you question, is it behind the curve in general, or is it behind his expectational curve? Is it behind where he expects them to be? And at the end of the day, if that's the case, then that does indicate that there's a problem. But let's talk about another rookie on this team, but an undrafted one, in Wesley Bailey. And I do have Wesley Bailey as a loser here, and I think you could potentially have anybody in the outside linebacker room who is a roster bubble candidate could potentially be the grouping here. But Bailey makes the most sense to me as a roster bubble candidate in this room. And it's primarily because, A, he's an undrafted free agent who the Rams guaranteed less than 2% of his contract to. So at the end of the day, it's an easy wave if you were to make that decision. But the other reason why it does start to feel like there might be more pressure on Bailey than some of the other UDFAs even is the signing of Tomon Fox pretty recently. The Rams went out and brought in New York Giants outside linebacker and special teamer Tomon Fox, and that might have been the role that you were having Wesley Bailey for. That you brought Wesley Bailey into play might have been exactly in that position right there as a, part of this pass rotation and primarily as a contributor on special teams. that role might have just vanished. That roster spot might have just vanished. And this isn't even me telling you Tomon Fox has a secured roster spot just because he got a contract. It's absolutely possible they could both end up getting waived. But at the end of the day, it doesn't feel great, like great news for a guy like Wesley Bailey or even a Keir Thomas on the other end of this situation when you sign a Tomon Fox. When the Rams feel a need to go out and get a Tomon Fox, does kind of feel like they're a little bit worried about the depth in the room. Last of the OTA losers here, guys. And I will tell you, I'm not going to lie, it was hard to find real losers from this Rams team. Almost all the reports we were getting out of OTAs were positive. But the more I thought about it, I was like, you know what? The rest of the NFL is a loser. The rest of the NFL are huge losers when you look at what the Rams were able to accomplish throughout this offseason. If I'm any other team or a fan of any other team base in the NFL, I feel like a loser watching the Rams go out and trade for Myles Garrett. Watching the Rams go out and prove once again that we are more aggressive than any other team is willing to be. That we are willing to, and I would say in the right raise, risk it all for what matters most, and that is winning Super Bowls. We're willing to make aggressive plays like this for Myles Garrett. Aggressive plays that people will remember and talk about for decades. And then even earlier this offseason, it's getting overshadowed now, but it's not the only blockbuster trade we made. We didn't just go out and get Myles Garrett. We got a back-end all-pro corner in Trent McDuffie to support Myles Garrett. If I'm any other team in the NFL, looking at a team that entered last season or exited last season in the NFC Championship game, but with the NFL's number one offense, and to be completely frank with you, one of its worst defenses, they went out and did these two moves this offseason. Oh my God, I am terrified right now if I am any other team in the NFL. The Rams are the best team in the NFL, and they transformed themselves. They were right there last season. They transformed themselves into undeniably the NFL's best team with great moves this offseason, and every other team in the NFL is a loser for it. If you agree, give me a Rams house in the comments section below. Let me know how fired up the Ramily is about the moves that this team has made to, in my opinion, become undeniably the NFL's best team. While you do that, I'm going to give you the answer to our trivia question. Drum roll, please. It's Steven Jackson. It is Steven Jackson, my personal favorite, and I know some of you guys are not going to like to hear this because if you're older Rams fans, you probably grew up watching Falk more than I did, or Eric Dickerson. But he is my personal favorite Rams running back. I have a signed helmet of Steven Jackson. He is our all-time leader in rushing yards. That may surprise you if you were thinking it was the Hall of Famer in Falk or in Eric Dickerson as our all-time leaders. They both split their careers. Falk spent some time in Indianapolis. Actually, both spent time in Indianapolis, excuse me. I was about to say different things there. But both of those guys spent other parts of their career with the Indianapolis Colts. So Steven Jackson is our all-time leader in rushing yards. If you learned something new, let me know in the comments. And as always, thanks for tuning in, guys. We appreciate your time here on the Rams Report. And we will see you in tomorrow's episode where we're going to talk about the Rams cap situation and some of the decisions they have coming up soon. So don't miss it.